morning, welcome back to the channel. I'm so sorry that this is a later video in the week than I expected. I usually do the best that I can to post a video earlier in the week. But it has been so crazy. So here in Texas, we are starting to wrap up at the end of the school year. And as many of you hopefully know by now, especially if you are brand new subscribers, I always do kind of a hashtag shout out to my city, Houston. So many of you who have been following me for a while, I am in Houston and surrounding areas have been closing up shop. And I'm actually looking for my keys because I have to unlock our closet so I can get my vitamins. So this week is the last week of school for our school district, and it has been absolutely crazy. So I am not able to do my awesome professional video that I did for you guys the last time. I was actually so proud of that. I loved it. I thought it was so much fun, but holy cow, that was so much work. It was a lot. So this is going to be casual, impromptu, but nonetheless, I am going to show you the list of questions that Sean and I both have whenever we are licensed foster parents. I'm going to show you guys the list of questions that he and I go through and how we talk about things and what we actually talk about. So here we go. Okay, so as you guys saw in the picture just before this, that is a snapshot of the actual questions that Sean and I ask every single time we get a placement call. Now, there's a couple of caveats to that, so I'm going to do the best I can in an abridged version of what those caveats are. Okay, so if you could not see it, please go to my Instagram. So here. Follow my Instagram. I will post those questions for you. Also, if you would like a copy so that you can use that for yourself, print it out, go to my email address. Email. Okay, I'm hoping I'm actually pointing at the right thing. All right, so I carry two things with me whenever I know I'm licensed or I'm getting close to being licensed. We just got our email confirmation from CPS that our home study, our assessment has all been submitted. We had to, I guess we had to like turn in a couple of odd items just to complete the file, but everything's been turned into the supervisor. So keep your prayers coming for us because we are soon to find out officially if we are licensed once again. But when I knew we were in the process of like very, very close to being licensed, or when I knew we were licensed, I would carry these two things around. Okay. So here are, and I hope you guys can see, yep, here are my questions. And then here, I make a note of how much daycare is, how many days a week. I kind of write up a mock schedule of basically age ranges of what we're, of what we're trying to license for, any registration fees, supplies, things of that nature. So I keep this with me so that whenever we have a placement call and I'm able to look at the age range, I'm able to see, okay, what can we expect to pay that week? What are going to be required for us? Because some age ranges don't need, say, a nap mat for daycare. But these are the questions that I focus on right here. Okay. So if you are a person licensing and you are not planning on doing daycare, that's perfectly fine. That is fine. The only suggestion that I would make, and I know I made this in my last video, please, please, please have at least some child care plan. Many agencies, or if you go directly through the state, which is often Family Protective Services, Child Protective Services, it's usually the Department of Family Services for your state. Many of the state agencies will require you to have a child care plan of some kind. I don't know if they're going to require you to have a babysitter, but me personally, I would have someone who is certified for your home that meets the standards of your private agency or non-state agency, or when you're with the state, like going directly with the state. So if you are in the licensing process, start thinking about that. Think about how you're able to certify someone to come in, either to be a mom's helper, so be here when you're here just to kind of help with the child or children, give you a break, be able to use the restroom, eat, maybe sleep a little bit, hydrate, or someone who has the permission of your agency because they've met certain requirements, certain standards, so that you can step out of the house, go to the grocery store, go get a cup of coffee, go get your nails done. All of the things that we like to do for self-care. If you don't know what that is, go check out my other video. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read the questions to you, and then we're gonna discuss a little bit. Okay, so the first thing that we do is I always write down the date. So when the placement call comes in, I write down to, whatever that day's date is, I write down the time of placement, and then I also write down who is calling. So I always like to know the name of the person. Why is that important? Because knowing the date and time and who is calling could help you later on down the road in the event that there's an issue with the placement, in the event that you and your spouse or you as a single parent need to disrupt the placement. If there are any other type of issues, documenting properly, think of it like this. Think of this as you being in the medical field. And in the medical field, you have to document everything. So you want to document because you never know when that information could be used, but just know every little bit of information is always able to be used, if that makes any sense at all. I tried my best. All right, so after I have date, time, and who is calling, then I ask how many children are there. Now, if you already know how many you're licensed for, then you should very comfortably assume the number. But if you are a family or a single parent who has license for more than one child, say you're more than 2 children or more than 3 children, so you could get as many as 5 children. In Texas, you cannot exceed 6 children in a home. I don't know how that works for other states. So for any of my followers who live in other states, check that out. Ask your agency. But in Texas, you cannot exceed 6 children, and that's including your biological children. There are families in Texas who were grandfathered in because they have 7 to 9 children. But I know because Texas has been updating their laws, passing different legislations for families who foster or adopt, they now have restricted families to 6 children in a home. Okay, so the other thing that now that I've asked for the name, or for how many children, then I ask, do you have names for the children? What are their names? What age are they? What is their gender? And what race? Now, some people may be offended by that. The only reason why it's important to know the race of the child is because this will help you prepare to care for that child. Case in point, if you are a predominant Caucasian family and you were to receive a mixed race child that may be Black American and or Hispanic, there are different hygiene requirements for different cultures. And so, you know what, I'm gonna try this a little bit. I'm sorry. But there's different hygiene requirements for every person of their own race, and you wanna make sure that you can provide that child proper care. And if you have comfort with that, because there may be family and friends around you that may take issue with you having a different race child in your home, that is a conversation really that you and your spouse or you as a single parent need to have with family and friends, and to understand any discomfort and to talk about it. Bring that to the table as an open conversation. That doesn't necessarily mean that if there are people who are uncomfortable with this, that you, your spouse, or you as a single parent that you should change what you're licensing for. This is just to bring awareness to you so that you know how to help that child feel comfortable. You also know how to help those family or friends that indicate their discomfort. You can help them also feel comfortable, because ultimately we're trying to bond, we're trying to connect. So that's the main goal here. So by no means am I trying to dissuade anybody from opening their homes to a mixed race child or to a biracial child from a different, from different cultures crossing and whatnot. You really want to make sure that everyone's aware and that there's a plan to help everybody come together and coincide in a very healthy, positive way. Okay, so after that, here are our main questions, and there's 9 questions. So, number 1, is this their first time in care? This is really important, guys, because you want to understand if this child has been in foster care before. This will help you understand the level of trauma that that child has. If this is their first time, this will be for you to know. You're going to be dealing with every behavior, emotional, and other psychological issues raw, which means they're coming fresh from the home that caused the problem in the first place. If this is not their first time in care, they've been through the foster care system, you'll have different behavioral and emotional issues, challenges to deal with, but at least you'll have that knowledge, knowing that they'll have some sense of awareness. Not a lot, because remember, cognitive age, where they are mentally, psychologically, versus chronological age, what they're supposed to be age-wise by their year and month and day, is going to be 2 different things. So they're oftentimes are going to regress. Question number 2. What are the reasons for the child or children who have been removed from their previous foster home? Or from their, and I meant to cross that out, from their previous foster home or from their actual home, biological family. That's good for you to know. If it's for neglect, if it's for abuse, if it's for sexual harassment or assault, if it's for injury, this just helps you know what to start kind of preparing for. You may have a few hours. You may just have an hour, but at least you'll have something in your mind. So later that day or evening, when everybody's settled down, sleeping upstairs, taking a nap, or going to bed for the night, you can get on your phone and you can research a few things. So at least you'll have that awareness. Does the child have any allergies or health problems? I think that's pretty self-explanatory, very important. Do they take any medications? If so, what? Obviously, very self-explanatory. These are very good questions to know. Are there any known emotional or behavioral issues? Now, you'll probably get the answers to this in questions number 1 and 2. But for question number 4, are there any known emotional or behavioral issues? This hopefully should be in the discussion with the person who's like a placement coordinator. They'll have different titles wherever you're at, whatever agency you're with. But knowing this, even if you can get a little bit of information, will really go a long way. This will help you learn what type of trauma tools from Empower to Connect that you guys can start looking into. This will also help you understand from some of the training that you've gone through with your agency about connecting with them, redirecting, and assisting them in some delayed emotional and physical behaviors. Now, very, very important. Number 5. How often are visits? What days of the week? Where are the visits? This is crucial. A lot of foster or pre-adoptive families, so a lot of foster families or foster single parents and pre-adoptive families or pre-adoptive single parents really ignore this question. This is crucial, guys. This is crucial because this will determine if taking this placement is actually a good fit for your family. Number 4's question is also a big determination, because if you already have children in your home or you have pets in your home and you know some of your children or pets have certain sensitivities, certain triggers of their own. It doesn't matter if they're biologically yours or not. Every child, every pet has a trigger. We're all sensitive to something. But if you know that a certain behavior could cause potential conflict in your family, these are things that you need to really consider. You really need to communicate with your spouse, or if you are a single parent, communicate with the person that you have designated in your life as your main helper. But how often are the visits? What days of the week are they? What time? And where is huge, because if you have a visit that's 4 days a week in the middle of the morning, clear across town, or 2 hours away from you, that's not going to work. Or if it's every Saturday, 2 hours away, or an hour away, or it's 30 minutes away, but it's 2 hours visit, and say you have other things going on in life that you have to try to figure out how to juggle, there's a lot that you guys have to discuss. There's a lot that you guys have to be aware of. So this is really, really, really important for you guys to discuss this. Okay. Now, if you are fostering or trying to adopt a teenager, here is this question. So, question number 6. Are there any known, for teens only, are there any known criminal or drug involvement? Guys, this is really important. Please take time to ask this question. Don't be afraid to. Even if you do feel scared, that's normal. But ask this question. This is going to help you really understand what's coming into your home so that you know how to turn around and help them. You also want to know with teenagers, are they runaways? Do they have a history of runaway? Do they have a history of physical violence? Criminal is different than physical violence. If criminal in the sense that they have actually broken laws that are connected through school or certain public property, that's a crime. Drug involvement, very self-explanatory. But physical behavior, like physical violence, that is them acting out physically towards the caregiver, teacher, other people of authority who have tried to come into their life and help them. You want to understand these things, this is not to deter you. This is to try to help you understand how can you help this child. This is a teenager in need. How can you help them? But you want to be aware, because I wouldn't want to throw you into a situation that you don't feel prepared. How anxious and scared would you feel? Very. So, we got to think about this. Okay. Now, the next 3 questions you can ask, you don't have to. I'm a person who loves information. Love. I function better the more I know. I hate to sound like that 1980s commercial, reading the more you know. Where's my rainbow? Okay, but you don't have to ask these, but here's what I ask towards the end of my question. Who is the caseworker in charge of the child? This is important to know, because when they come over to your house, you want to greet them. You want to have, you already kind of want to know who's coming into your home. That's important to me. I like to know who's coming into my home. My home is an open door. I just want to know who you are. So think about that. Who is the child's caseworker? Is there a way for me to contact them? And you may not get that information right then, but hopefully you should get that information. If you don't, make it a point to get that person's phone number. Okay? Very, very important, because you may have lots of questions. Maybe not that night, maybe not that day, depending on when the child or children come into your home. But the next couple of days, you're going to have a lot of questions. Are there any potential family coming forward for the child? This question pertains to legal risk and straight adopt only. There are a lot of foster parents who ask this question, because a lot of families who get into fostering, they do have a desire to adopt. They want to adopt. But there are some families like Sean and I who are licensing. We are licensing for legal risk and straight adopt only. So we have fostered, Now we're trying to have more permanency and forever children in our home. Or I should say, children in our home to be a forever family. But it's okay to ask that. It's okay. Because that also gives you kind of an insight of, will I be dealing with family at visitations? So that's a good question to ask. Last question. Okay, so number 9. All right. Do you know of any other information or potential issues to help us decide? That sounds like a silly way of asking it, isn't it? Because you would think that a person who's calling, and I'll put my placement here, you would think that a person who's calling with information that they would want to help you. It's not that they don't want to help you, it's because they have 50 zillion other calls to make and 50 zillion other people to help and talk to and questions to answer and so forth. So please be mindful that you are your advocate. Go back to the last video. You are your own advocate. You need to advocate for yourself, not just for self-care, but you also have to advocate what's best for you, your spouse, your family. If you are a single person doing this, for yourself, your home, any pets that you may or may not have, and your family and friends as well that surround you. Remember, guys, although you may be licensing to foster or to adopt, and you are doing this because you have a desire in your heart, you have a calling, you are doing this because this is your continuation plan, I should say not program, plan past infertility. Whatever your reason is, you are here for these children, and there are children out there for you, but you have to make sure this decision that you make will be healthy for not just you, but for the children. The one thing that I will leave you with at the end of this video is Sean and I have disrupted on 2 placements, and that was several years ago. I will tell you, we deeply regret disrupting that. There was a lot of information we were not privy to. There was a lot of information we were lacking. There was a lot of awareness we did not have. We also didn't have experience. And I'm not saying that anybody else around us would have made different decisions, because we have found out since then we are not the only couple that has ever disrupted on a placement inside of 30 days. We just did not make our 2 agencies that we were with, 2 different agencies, very happy. And there's a reason for that. Agencies get funding differently than the state gives funding to Child Protective Services. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And it's not technically a bad thing to disrupt on a placement if truly the placement is not a good fit for your family. But when you have resources out there, which now I am aware of and I'm sharing with you, about Empowered to Connect, TBRI, trauma-based informed care, understanding how to process these questions, learning how to help your family, this is what makes a huge difference. This is what helps you succeed and not disrupt or really decreases the chances of you disrupting on your placement. Because ultimately, the goal is reunification. We want the child to be in a healthy, happy home, which is our foster home or legal risk home or straight adopt home. But if the child has to go back to their birth family or a kinship placement, we want to be supportive of that. If they cannot, we want to be in a good place to receive them, to be with them, and to grow with them as a forever family. All right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to all of our brand new subscribers. Thank you so much for following us. Please, again, go down here to my Instagram. I am constantly posting now, and I'm exploding with all sorts of great information, uplifting advice and counsel. I have some really awesome life things happening right now in the background that I'm so super excited about, and I post more of that on my Instagram than I do here because this is my foster and adoption channel. So I really want to try to give this to you guys as guidance, as counsel, empowerment, encouragement, most of all, education. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you next week.